Oh my goodness. I am so excited. I was sitting down this morning reading like a parenting book, and suddenly something that I've been chewing on for weeks and weeks and weeks suddenly came into clear vision, and I wanted to come on here and let you know a couple things. First of all, my whole YouTube channel is being revamped. So the banner changed, the playlists changed, really focusing in on the homeschool life with the categories of academics and teaching tips, the home, family, faith, that kind of stuff, the heart of the family, um, attitudes, life skills, manners and etiquette, all kinds of stuff. But I'm so excited because I was able to binge draft the entire contents of my next book, which I'm super excited. So what can you do? Number one, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you don't miss anything on YouTube. Number two, when I'm done, I will add the link. I do have a Patreon page that's been sitting kind of dusty off in the corner. And as I write and create content for this new book, I'm going to be posting it on Patreon first. Why? Because it's not as scary to do it out there as it is to do it in the general public. And I really want to be held accountable for getting it out as soon as possible. My 5 children are almost done homeschooling. Our oldest, is now married and successfully running his life. Child number 2, son number 2, getting married this year, super excited, totally flying and succeeding in life. Son number 3, totally rocking it. He's got his associate's degree and he is working and interning at church and is on his way to being a worship pastor. Super excited for him. Son number 4 is completing his Associates of Science degree this quarter. So March, he'll be done officially with high school and with his associate's degree, and is trying to decide where he's going in the fall, not wanting to take that gap year that a lot of kids do because science doesn't like to sit and get dusty. And then our baby is a junior in high school and also pursuing his associate's degree simultaneously because he wants to be a doctor. And so he wants to try to rein in that level of education. But what that means is you're looking at somebody that has survived 25 years of homeschooling, 5 kids successfully through the homeschool chute. Every single one of them completely and totally uniquely and wonderfully made and different. It's been a struggle and it's been a joy all at the same time. And I want to help you move faster and more efficiently in your homeschooling journey. And so I am in the process of brain dumping and writing and creating content. Since my kids are all busy, it gives me the pocket of time that I can put these down. My vision for my book is that it will be a fast read, short blips that help you focus on a particular topic. And they are, I'll give you a glimpse of my notebook so that you can see. So it's all color-coded. And it is, these are the chapters. And so they're everything that has to do with the things that make your kids stand out in today's world. Their manners and their etiquette, their character, their heart, right? Those things that make them totally and uniquely stand out in a crowd. It's unbelievable how much those things matter. And although that's well, of course they do, but they really stick out like a sore thumb. So I want to pass on some of the training things that we've done over the years that have worked for us. And I also want to share things that have flopped big time. Life skills. We want to make sure that our kids are mastering things that are going to help them be captains of their own ships and masters of their own destiny. And life skills make a big difference. One of our sons just let us know the other day that the snow had built up around his car tire and gotten frozen ice, which, as he was driving, actually dug and tore a hole in his tire. And so he got his first flat tire in, I think it was 5-degree weather. But he was so glad that we had taken the time to change a tire in the garage during beautiful weather. So he knew exactly what to do. Life skills, the types of things that your kids should know by the time they leave home. Attitude. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It is so easy to neglect negative, snarky, bitter, angry, blah attitudes in homeschool because you want to check off the academic boxes. You want your kids to read, you want them to write, you want them to understand history and science. But man, those attitudes, if they don't get reined in and if the kids don't understand they have control over those things while they are still under your roof, then we might be releasing some pretty interesting characters into society, and we don't want to do that. So training in attitude, training, not disciplining, not punishing, but training in attitude. It is possible to help your kids train up a positive, loving, encouraging, kind, considerate attitude. Then the other sections that are coming are a trio of family, faith, and home. I am a Bible believing Christian. And so my core foundation in everything that I do comes from a faith in God and how important that has been in our entire homeschool journey. And we have learned so much and have so many tips and tricks and things that you can use in your own home to help raise up your kids in that way too. But it'll include things like secret things, not secret, but expert tips on how to manage your house or control your food and your finances and all those things. And then the last section that I'm going to be diving into as I am writing this book is the stuff that you first think about when you think about homeschooling. You think about academics, you think about math and writing and history and science and art and music, right? And so there absolutely are things that I want to share with you about academics, but understand right from the get-go as I'm writing this book that it's not my job to teach you necessarily how to solve a quadratic equation so you can teach that to your kids. But I do feel like it's my duty, my Titus 2 gray-haired at the end of my homeschool duty, to kind of help you see which things are necessary for your kids to learn before they move out into the general public. And so that is my heart in coming along. Hey, Melissa, that is my heart in coming and writing this book and creating all this content that will be coming at you. And so I don't know how long it's going to take me to write the book. It took me less than an hour to outline it. And I am so excited because when I can see something that clearly, if I can just get the time, I can put it out there pretty quickly. And I'm just super, super excited about it because I think that this is missing out there. You know, we need the homeschool must-haves list, and it has nothing to do with curriculum. It's not something that you buy at Barnes and Noble or online at Amazon, although there are things that make homeschooling easier and more efficient and help you gain success. There are tools that I personally invested in that I recommend that everybody has in their house, like my very favorite pencil sharpener on the planet. There are things that I really think that make a difference. But most of the success in homeschool, you know, I've got 5 kids, and when my kids go somewhere, and this has been this way for years and years, they come home, and then later I hear things like, oh my gosh, those kids are amazing. I cannot believe I've not seen kids like this in public. Like these are like old school, amazing young men or men, depending on which kids you're talking about. And, that doesn't happen because we finished page 47 of a math book. That happens because they had a bad attitude when working on problem number 2. So we put the book aside and then we did something depending on what the day was. Sometimes it meant that they did push-ups instead of doing math. Sometimes they ran sprints outside. Sometimes we went for hikes or bike rides, or we would paint, or we would eat. And all of these things that over the course of time have bled into their life. We made it a point that attitude was more important than academics, but academics are still very, very important. So we always put the attitude first, and we trained those things first, and then added the academics on top. Because the reality is, if you have an uneducated person that's 13, 14, they've never read, they've never held a pencil, but they're amazing. They're kind and considerate and compassionate. They're helpful and courteous and responsible and disciplined. You have that person, you can teach them academics in no time flat. But if you have a 13 or 14-year-old snarky snot, that has a jerky attitude, that feels entitled, that loves to roll their eyes and throw attitude at you, and now you try to teach them something, oh mama, you're going to pull your hair out of your head, and nobody's going to like them. Not their future wife, not their future kids, not their future employer or employees. And so when we're homeschooling, we want to raise up people that we want to share space with in the general public, and that other people are going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you for taking the time to train up your kids. That's the goal. And there are academic things that we want to lay on top of that. We want them to read. We want them to love to read. We want them to love story. We want them to be able to add, subtract, multiply, divide, do percentages and decimals and all the things necessary for everyday life. And then if they're mathematicians, they can also do the other stuff too, the geometries and the calculuses and that kind of stuff. And don't worry, God created college professors for the things that are too hard for us. So it's okay, they can go on and do that. But it's important that we don't put academics over the heart and the attitude of our kids. And so here I sit at the beginning of 2022 with a clear vision for a new book that is coming. A book that will be a fast read, that will be easy to go back and forth and to kind of hunt through. I don't know if it's going to be chaotic, meaning that we'll talk manners one day and then academics another day, or if it'll be split into sections. I got to write it first before that comes out. But I know these things are important. I know that understanding that in order to teach your kids about anything complicated, it's best if they touch it, feel it, smell it, hear it, read about it, watch it on movies, and then pick up a pencil to tell you what you know. I know this to be true. That all immersed, entrenched, inspired learning, that when you do it, makes you look like a superstar. But really, it's not that hard. And once you embrace that way, once you understand that vision for learning, you can apply it to anything that you want your kids to learn. It's secret sauce. So that's what my notebook is filled with. Secret sauce. It's dripping with inspiration. It's dripping with hope. It's dripping with encouragement. There's no easy button and there's no fast forward button. Training up kids that are released into society that people go, wow, they're amazing, that takes time. That causes your dark brown hair to turn gray. But that's okay, because God says that gray hair is a crown. So I'm happy to be sporting a crown today. I'm old enough that if I'm wearing my distance glasses, I can't see the screen. And if I put, and I never have my reading glasses on, so I'm old enough that things are reminding me that I've been around the block a few times. And I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your homeschool journey. I'm excited for your parenting journey. The reality is that homeschooling is hard because it's everything all wrapped together. It's laundry, it's food, it's the dog that needs training, it's academics, it's being with your husband, it's relationships, it's gardening, it's everything all together. And it all is dependent on you and on me. And so it's hard, but it's possible to do it and to still be smiling 25 years later. It's possible to still be excited when your kids get excited about something. And so, what do I hope for you? I hope that you will like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because I have a lot that I'm going to be downloading and coming to you through YouTube. I hope that you follow me and that you're subscribed to my email list on my website. So a better way to homeschool at gmail dot not at gmail, a better way to homeschool.com. That's it. If you subscribe there, I also send things via email. And then on Patreon, I want you to consider being a patron on Patreon. Patreon is a member supported thing. It's one of those things like in the good old days back when Shakespeare and traveling, entertaining people, they would have patrons that would help support their cause. And the patrons that I only have a few right now. But my hope is that I can be feeding the book to the patrons first, and that they'll be getting sneak peeks and they will get a PDF copy of the book when it comes out. And to be able to flesh out these things, to have your creative input into the book. So if there is a particular area or a topic or a theme that you would like explored, we can explore that through Patreon together, and you can have creative input into this book that's coming. So those are the things that are coming this way. It's a strange season to be at the end where you're watching your kids start to take flight and to go. But it's super, super encouraging to see them actually soar, to see them take the reins of life and actually do it, to do the things that you always hoped that they would do. I remember when all 5 of my kids were delayed readers, delayed learners. My oldest, although he walked at 6.5 months, and yes, you can hit the rewind button 15 seconds and you will know that I said 6.5 months. We called him kamikaze on feet. Although he walked early, he didn't really talk until he was 4. And none of my kids read before they were 6, maybe. Words, little short things, but not really. And my youngest didn't read until he was 10. My second child had major medical issues where he had multiple huge surgeries before he was 6. Huge surgeries. When I was pregnant with 2, 3, 4, and 5, I couldn't walk. Literally could not walk because things became unconnected, disconnected, and things would grind when my legs would move. It was horrible. And yet I still had more children. The kids didn't learn all of their math things on time. Our oldest, we pushed through math. By the time he graduated high school, he had completed an extra year of math. So he was all the way through calculus. But he's not a mathematician. And so that meant that his entire high school experience in math was riddled with migraine headaches and tension and frustration because he wasn't a mathematician. And so we learned to slow down and to make sure that the kids had a solid foundation in math before we let them move on. And out of the five, I only have one mathematician. And he's the kind of mathematician that drives you crazy because he wants to prove that Pythagorean was correct when he discovered the Pythagorean theorem or founded it. But I only had one mathematician. And so I learned from the first one to slow down and to make sure they had the foundation. And what that meant is that the rest of them, the other four, didn't touch algebra until they hit high school. And we did that on purpose so that when they hit high school, they would thrive. And if they wanted to go on, God had college professors for them. And it turned out to work super well because it's our fourth son that's the mathematician. And he's gone through all the way through calculus 3 and in physics and chemistry and all those things that make me not feel so good in my stomach. And he does beautifully. So there were kids that didn't do well in math. Our second, we always had them do standardized testing when they were younger for different reasons. And I'll go into that when I write the book. But my second one just created patterns on his tests. And I was okay with that. He never really tried to do the test. He just created patterns. But he ended up graduating with a bachelor's degree in digital filmmaking. He's a screenwriter. He's a creative writer. He's an animator. He's amazing. But he just doesn't do well on standardized tests. So anyway, all that to say, I've got a lot to share with you, a lot, and I'm super excited about it. My next benchmark thing that I need to do is create a schedule of how often you're going to see me on YouTube. I'm thinking twice a week, but I need to kind of line that up with the older kids' schedule. The book, I'm going to start dumping and downloading content out on Patreon pretty quickly, and I'm super excited about that. I've already given the YouTube channel a facelift, so I changed the banner and I created the new thumbnails so that you can see the different categories as they're coming, and I'm super excited. So let me know what you want to hear. What are your big questions? And they think about that in terms of all of the topics. What kinds of manners and etiquette questions do you have? What kinds of life skills are you hoping that your kids learn? When I asked my third son, I think it was in 8th grade, I'm like, dude, what do you want to learn before you graduate high school? Because I want to make sure to squeeze the things in that you care about. And you know what one of the things was, he said, it's like ballroom dancing. I'd really like to know how to ballroom dance before I graduate. I was like, what? Ballroom dance? Nowhere on my radar was that. So what kinds of things do you want to know about life skills? For him, that's a life skill that he still wants to do. He was in a class and it got canceled because of COVID. But anyway, what kind of life skills? What about attitudes? Where do your kids struggle with attitudes? Where do you struggle with attitudes? Just last night, I had a major confrontation with one of my kids because we sat and we watched, we kind of binge watched a new show that the family's watching. And after about 2.5, 3 hours, he stands up and then goes to do the dishes that are his chore for January, then does the dishes, and then finishes his schoolwork. And at midnight, we're talking about when I have to get up in the morning because I'm still driving him everywhere. And I was furious because he hadn't thought through the consequences of his lack of organization. Now, the furious part is my own confession to you, because just because I sometimes put my face on social media doesn't mean that I'm not a real flesh and blood person. And I was mad. I was mad that he wasn't organized. And this morning, he apologized for being frustrating. And I had to correct him. I'm like, You are not frustrating. You are a joy. You are so loved and so respected in my life. I love being your mom. I love being your life coach. I love taking you to school and doing things with you. I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with your lack of organization and consideration on how that impacted me today. I said, if I'm frustrated with you, you can't fix that. That's just a state of yuck. That's where the enemy wants to defeat you. But if I'm frustrated with your lack of organization, that's something we can attack together. That's something we can train up. Does that make sense? So, what are your questions about um, attitudes? What are your questions about faith, home, and family? I have a family of 5 boys. Can you imagine what my grocery bill has been? No, you can't. Not unless you have. 2 of my boys are rowers. 3 of the boys rowed at the same time in the same season. That whole thing about boys having a hollow leg, oh, you put rowing on top is horrible. So, what kind of questions do you have about faith, family, and home? Because I want to include those in the book too. And I have a bunch, but I also want to get anything that you would want in there also. And then the academics. What do you want to know about academics? I've already created a set of what you should teach your kids guidelines for kindergarten through 5th grade. And if that's something you're interested in, I'll actually come back and I'll drop some links to all of these things, to Patreon and all that stuff, so that you can see where those things are. But I have some core tips on how you should approach teaching math, how you should approach teaching writing, and how you can approach teaching the other things like history and science and art and music and life. And so those are going to be in the book too. And don't worry, it's not going to be a 5,000-page book. I have 69 little chapters drafted as of today. And each one I'm hoping to condense into a 2-page spread. So it's a fast read. Because, Mom, you don't have time to read a homeschool novel. You need help now, right now, baby. So anyway, we are going to be doing so much, and I'm so excited. And I can't wait to hear from you. And I can't wait to see you in my inbox. I can't wait to see you in the comments. I can't wait to see you on Patreon. And I can't wait to share some of the things that I've learned that have caused the color to drain out of my hair. My hair used to be dark brown. I can't wait to share those things with you because I want you to succeed. I want you to embrace inspired learning and creative teaching and joyful living in the family that God's blessed you with the kids that God has given you, each one uniquely and wonderfully made and hand delivered to you to raise and to educate. And there are things that I'm doing that I don't need to do anymore. There are things that you are doing that you don't need to do anymore. And there are things that you and I may not have done, or things that we need to add into our life. And I'm excited to explore what those things are. So anyway, that's it. I'm super excited and I can't wait. I can't wait to watch all of this unfold. So yeah, if you have any questions, drop them below. I'll see you in the comments. And that's it. Stay tuned. Bye.